Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new episode of our F1 My Career mode here on the channel. Hope you're all having a great day. Today we take on race 2 of the 2021 season, the Vietnamese Grand Prix, and unfortunately announced from the actual governor is, well, this is the last time we're going to be going to Vietnam. This track will not be on the calendar next season for 2022 and beyond, so this is the last time we'll get to race at this circuit, which is a lot of fun. High speed as well as some technical windy sections. It's got a mix of kind of everything here. Big hairpin that's heavy braking. It's got everything you really want on a street circuit, to be honest. We have the blue Renault livery on our car coming off of a solid season opening round here, and let me know down below if you actually want me to stick with this blue livery or if we should go back to the traditional yellow and black livery. I could bring that back as soon as next episode, maybe episode 4. I apologize, it's been so long between episodes. I told you guys I was going to go away for a little bit because my main channel is my main focus, and the new NASCAR game, NASCAR 25, had just come out in October, and I was having an absolute blast with it, and I had to put a lot of focus into it, and that focus that I put into it was well worth it, but I ended up taking a little bit longer of a break than I anticipated. But we are back and we are rolling here in the F1 scene. If you aren't aware of my NASCAR channel, by the way, it's simply called Gowen, Gowen. We're closing in on 40,000 subscribers. It's hard to believe that we're getting closer to that number over on that side of things now, as now we can kind of focus on this channel and maybe the push to 10K, although I'm sure the YouTube algorithm is not going to be a fan of me with the breaks I've taken. So yeah, we'll see. It's probably going to be a long road ahead still to that number, but overall we come through into qualifying at this point Saturday afternoon, and honestly feel pretty confident in terms of race pace, but qualifying pace not the most confident in, because I've never really been great at this racetrack. We had a pretty rough outing here in my rookie season, and when I'm on this racetrack just by myself, I just kind of struggle to get into a rhythm, and I struggle with the confidence. And my first lap in Q1 I was P5, which would eventually drop me outside of Q1's advancement, so I was down to P16 as we came to our final attempt of a lap now in Q1, trying to break into the, of course, top 15. You got rookie right there in front of us, Robert Schwartzman, Giovinazzi, and another rookie, Mick Schumacher, there just behind us now, as we would find some improvements by the end of the lap, but it was not by much. I had found a couple tenths of a second trying to get closer to that 3/10 margin, but it actually goes back down to less than 2/10 of an advantage as we come through the final corner. Hard on the throttle, we give up a good chunk of time, but thank goodness it was barely enough to get through into P15, but certainly not making me feel very hopeful going into Q2, where honestly I really don't think Q3 is a realistic goal at this point. And we come into Q2 and I'm making a lap late in the session. Both Ferraris out. As you guys know, Ferrari started this season quite a ways down the R&D charts, so they have got some work to do. But of course Bahrain was a fascinating episode because they qualified poorly, but then they ended up racing pretty well. Will they be able to continue that maybe here into Vietnam there as we come through to the end of our lap here in Q2? And I didn't really feel like I could have done a whole lot better than what I just put up here. And to the line, it's not enough. It's P11, and at the end of Q2, we would drop to 13th while my teammate of Ricardo moves on into Q3. And Tsunoda, Leclerc, myself, Vettel, and Perez, the 5 drivers out as we focus in on Sunday afternoon for the Grand Prix.
The Formula One circus has arrived in Southeast Asia once more as we usher in a new era and get ready to go racing here in Vietnam. A lap of Hanoi circuit then, 3.4 miles around the Vietnamese capital. A number of the 23 corners take their inspiration from other great circuits, hopefully creating plenty of passing opportunities. Anthony Davidson joins me once again in the commentary box, and it's fantastic to have you with us here today. But I'm curious, as a man with experience out on the track, how do you stop those pre-race nerves from becoming overwhelming when you're lining up on the grid?
But from the moment qualifying's over, you start to feel the adrenaline in your body build up and the buzz in your stomach as you anticipate the run down into turn 1. It's all a bit like going into battle. and the unknown situation makes you nervous. Those pre-race nerves are a good thing. The day you don't have them means that you don't care anymore. And of course, you have to make sure that all the procedures are second nature to you, so that they're not taking up too much of your capacity.
Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks for today's race. Max Verstappen put in a fantastic lap yesterday, and he starts from pole position, and Valtteri Bottas will line up alongside. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Hamilton, Albon, Sergio Perez, and Ricciardo, Gasly, Stroll, Sainz, and Lando Norris, Kvyat, Leclerc, the Rainmaster, and Vettel, Magnussen, Giovinazzi, George Russell, and Esteban Ocon, Matsushita, and Nicholas Latifi. And now it's time to head down to the track.
We're ready to go racing then here from Vietnam. We are going to be doing a one-stop strategy. We'll start on the sauce. We'll switch over to the hard compound tire. It's supposed to be a nice dry Grand Prix here, unlike what we saw in FP1 where it was borderline monsoon. As Sebastian Vettel, Leclerc, they're sandwiched around me now. The Ferraris once again not showing up in qualifying, and our good old pal, of course, of Charles Leclerc right there in front of us. I think one of the goals this season is to just avoid running into him. Really would not want to kind of reignite that rivalry that finally kind of fizzled out, midway through season 1, but certainly kind of kept our name on the radar now as we pull up to our grid slot, and we'll get ready to go racing here from the final ever Vietnamese Grand Prix. Well, maybe not final ever, of course it could come back in the future, but here we go from the 13th starting position. We're ready to go racing. Max Verstappen is going to lead us to green. It's an incredible launch. The car popped right out of the grid slot, and Max Verstappen leads into turn 1 over Lewis Hamilton, Valtteri Bottas, and you're going to see Verstappen in complete control here. He has not won over a season. He's yet to win in this career mode. George Russell in his brand new ride here at Force India, or Racing Point, there in P4, settling in front of Lewis Hamilton, who had dropped down to 4th on the start of this Grand Prix. Alex Albon down there in P5. As for myself, we started P13. We settle into P13. Leclerc was able to get in front of Yuki Tsunoda. Sebastian Vettel behind us, under attack from Antonio Giovinazzi there in the Haas now, as we're going to roll up to the back of the Japanese rookie driver of Tsunoda. Big prospect here as he looks to eye a future at Red Bull Racing, as we continue on behind the AlphaTauri, now settling in on this opening lap here, just getting our bearings straight and finding that kind of comfort as we continue down the long straightaway. Of course, in a couple laps time we'll have DRS down the straightaway and into the hairpin, lacking kind of bravery there into the corner. I saw that Tsunoda might go for a dive, and sure enough he did, so I kind of just backed out of it early and kind of let that materialize, and he's actually going to pass Charles Leclerc and move himself up into the 10th spot now, as he's now just behind fellow Canadian of myself there, Lance Stroll, in the Racing Point, as we are now in behind Leclerc as we come to lap 2, still waiting for the DRS, and that Ferrari power is coming up behind me of Sebastian Vettel. He is starting to kind of show up in my mirrors a little bit more, and as we come to lap 3, the DRS of course now enabled, things are going to get a little bit more difficult now to stay ahead, but we've made no moves so far. I just haven't quite had the pace to make it happen, so we're just kind of stuck here in the 12th position. Now actually a McLaren of Lando Norris had to pit for wing damage at the end of the first lap, I should note of that, as here comes Sebastian Vettel actually up my inside here on lap 3 as I'm nearly into the back of Stroll, who's now been overtaken by Leclerc and Tsunoda, as we do hold off Sebastian Vettel for the time being. But a lap later, still again Vettel putting on the pressure, this time dives up the inside of me and Lance Stroll, and that's going to allow him to at least complete the overtake on myself. I always give Sebastian Vettel a little bit more extra room as we go for a complete power slide here on lap 5 and save it. I mean, I didn't know we were Formula drifting around here. I thought this was Formula 1, but now we are going to be, facing the consequences of that slide. No grip out of the corner, and that brings us under attack now from Sergio Perez at his new ride with Alfa Romeo, and he passes me down towards the hairpin. Vettel continues to go forward. I continue to go backwards. It's not been a pretty start here so far in Vietnam. Vettel has passed 2 cars of Stroll and Tsunoda in the last lap or so, and he's getting closer to the points, just like his teammate of Leclerc, who's been going forward. As lap 6, my DRS has actually gone down, so we will not have any DRS until that situation is resolved, and that is going to be catastrophic on this exact part of the circuit right here, as it is a super long straightaway, and here comes Rookie of the Year contender of Robert Schwartzman trying to close up on myself now, but fortunately for the time being, he was not able to get up to myself, and we were still at least able to kind of hold our own for the most part, and actually we're bringing the attack to Lance Stroll until I have a bit of a tank slapper now as Valtteri Bottas has come into the pits already here. I believe that is a strategy. That's not an issue with maybe any wing damage. No, he is scheduled to come in. So Bottas is already pitted as we've lost out now to Robert Schwartzman, still with no DRS. He locks up that right front there into the hairpin, but obviously at this point I am just in trouble. We need the DRS back, and overall I've been kind of lacking pace, and it's not been a pretty race so far, as now we are going to come into the pits this lap. We could go a little bit further. My pit strategy was to take me a little bit deeper into the race. However, my teammate of Ricardo actually was pitting this lap, so I had to stay out and eventually to our scheduled pit window, which is lap 9. So didn't quite get to pit as early as I wanted to, but we're now up to P8. But of course, that's going to continue to change up here as this pit cycle continues to run its course here. Now, Max Verstappen is actually staying out longer than anybody, so an interesting strategy there from the Dutchman. Now, as here comes Valtteri Bottas now, once again, still DRS-less. I'm using rich fuel, and I'm using some battery up, just trying to stay in front of Bottas, but unfortunately here he comes firing up my inside, and that's a fight that I'm not really in today from the looks of it now, and so obviously I'm going to make life pretty easy for him. Another big slide, and as we come to the tail end of lap 9, we are going to come in and make our first and hopefully only pit stop of the day, and we're going to follow the likes of Schwartzman in as well as Lance Stroll. It's a super slow crawl down the pit lane here in Vietnam, but eventually we do get there, and we will get these hard tires on. So a decent pit stop will come out just behind the racing point of Stroll, and actually there comes Schwartzman out in between both of us now, and we'll come back out onto the racetrack, wait to see where we cycle out. Of course, stay to the left here, you can carry a lot of speed. We're just in front of Giovinazzi and Latifi, so we are P15, still with no DRS. So we're waiting for that DRS to kick back in, and I was hoping it was only going to be like a lap or two, but it is clearly turning into a little bit more than that, because now here comes, unfortunately, Antonio Giovinazzi with the DRS. I just can't keep that back, and he's on a soft tire, which tells me that there is multiple drivers, or several drivers here on a two-stop strategy. So here comes Sergio Perez a lap later, coming out just in front of us now from the pits. He's on mediums. He might be able to go to the end on that, I would expect, so he is going to be someone we could be racing down towards the tail end of this Grand Prix, maybe in the later part. Of course, he's on the medium, so fresher tire, softer tire, he should be able to outpace me early on in this run, and he was making quick work of it. He had passed Giovinazzi, he has now passed Yuki Tsunoda, as I've finally got DRS back on this car, and immediately we are able to make it show. We're bringing the fight to Giovinazzi into the hairpin, and we'll go around the outside of him, of the Italian driver that is, and then we actually are able to catch Yuki Tsunoda kind of slacking right there. Welcome to Formula 1, Yuki. They're gonna learn those things as he continues to gain experience now, but he left the door open, we took it, and just after 1 year of experience in F1, we're able to make those kinds of moves and catch the new faces of this sport coming in off guard a little bit now, as we continue to watch now drivers making their second pit stops come in. Gasly's in, Stroll's in, so these guys going for 2 stops while we are, like I said, we're aiming quite simply to go to the end on these hards on the 1 stop, as we are going to be kind of in no man's land for a while, I think. Now, Perez is really the only one we're kind of in a battle with. We've driven away from Tsunoda and Giovinazzi. I've got DRS from Perez, and now Albon's come in, Leclerc as well, Russell, Bottas, all these guys in front of us. My teammate of Ricardo's come in for a second stop, so we've cycled ourselves well into the top 10 as we come to lap 18 of 28, but a very calm, kind of quiet, cool, and collected Grand Prix that we're kind of having right here. So we're kind of getting through this pretty quick, but here we go. Down towards the hairpin now, lap 18 with the DRS, and finally close enough to make a move. Perez locks up by fire, one up the inside. George Russell just behind both of us now, wants to get this taken care of as quick as he can. We clear Sergio Perez. We move ourselves up into P5 now, but it's time to go late in this race now, coming up on 10 laps to go at this point now. Sebastian Vettel on hards up there in front of us. He's going to go to the end of this Grand Prix. Schwartzman on softs. I hit the wall right there on the left side, and unfortunately you immediately see the understeer in the car, and we do have wing damage, and I was hoping to maybe tough it out, but I was going to base it off of if I could drive away from Perez or not, and I barely could drive away from him. I would only open up the gap by a few tenths of a second, and I ultimately decided I didn't want to suffer through this for 10 laps, so I'm going to go for the 2-stop. I felt like we were going to lose too much time overall on the just driving with the damaged wings, so I forgot to show it. We had a yellow left front wing, and I barely felt like I hit the wall, but we're going to come in and do the 2-stop, and that kind of kills everything for us here now. We're going to be on an island of our own, and now we've got nothing left to do except trying to set a pace and gain 9 seconds to run down 14th place of Robert Schwartzman to what looked like for a brief period of time we might sneak in a top 10, and what's been a rough weekend so far on the one-stop strategy has turned back into running in 15th just in front of Lando Norris, who's trying to run me down. So this has turned into a pretty frustrating Grand Prix and really just looking to get to China in the next one. Max Verstappen, as we go through some of the grid here, is out in front over Sebastian Vettel in second. He's on that one-stop strategy. Hamilton's running him down from third position. Hamilton has gotten in front of Valtteri Bottas over the course of this race. And actually, the Pepsi young driver highlight here of the race is that guy, George Russell, running up there in P4, the highest of the Pepsi young runner drivers, and he is having an absolutely fantastic performance now. And that Racing Point, he got the step up from Williams to Racing Point, and he is making the most of it as he continues to eye a ride at Mercedes as soon as next season. But the question is, I mean, how is that going to work out? Valtteri Bottas, of course, we thought Russell might end up at Mercedes this season, but then Valtteri Bottas went out and, well, he defied the odds and he won a championship over Lewis Hamilton with some help from mechanical failures on Hamilton. That kind of trust between Hamilton and Mercedes kind of broke down a little bit, but I mean, they're back kind of on form this season and looking to kind of put that behind them and go get Lewis Hamilton his 7th world title here in the final season of potential dominance from Mercedes before we switch over to a completely new Formula One vehicle in 2022. But Max Verstappen and Red Bull Racing have fired off out of the gate pretty well. Of course, they had a lot of speed coming into the season from preseason testing. They're at the top of the R&D charts, but unfortunately Verstappen had a mechanical failure in the season opener in Bahrain. Here's Hamilton now a little bit later in the race now, making a pass on Sebastian Vettel, so Hamilton through into P2 as, wow, what a voice crack, Vettel drops down to third. In these closing laps, we have cut the gap to Schwartzman from over 9 seconds to just under 4 seconds with still 4 laps to go. We might actually get to him, and as the laps continue on now, a little bit later on lap 25, coming to 3 laps to go, and the gap is down to 3 seconds just about. So there is a real chance we might actually get to him. I'm probably not going to get to Lance Stroll, even though there's only about a 1.5 second difference between those two drivers, but of course it's going to require an actual pass, and that's going to cost us some time. So I think we can get Schwartzman, but that's about as far as we're going to get. We can see him now as well. So we come now approaching 2 laps to go, and we are within a second of Schwartzman. We have run him down, and the gap to Stroll has increased between Schwartzman and him. So Stroll is still 3 seconds ahead. Norris 10 seconds back. He's not having the race, of course, that he would like to have as we continue now through the final turn. 2 laps to go here from Vietnam, now going down the long back straightaway with the DRS. We have run him down, looking for a move now, but look at the Ferrari power in the Alfa Romeo engine, just allows him to hold so much speed, but we fire one up the inside and pass him anyways for 14th, approaching the final lap, and that's as far as we are going to get, unfortunately, here as we start the final lap. 2 seconds in between myself and Stroll. If you gave me 2 laps, I think I could get him, but I'm not going to get him in 1 lap. It's just not going to happen. So Max Verstappen, he has been in control all race long from start to finish, and for the first time since 2019, Verstappen's finally going to return to the top step of the podium. Career win number 9 for the Dutchman, as Hamilton will settle for 2nd position. Sebastian Vettel on the 1-stop maintains P3, and George Russell is going to manage a 5th place effort, as Valtteri Bottas was able to pass him in the end for 4th. As for myself here, it's going to be P14. We had gotten there to Stroll and Tsunoda. If only we had a couple more laps, we could have maybe gotten 2-3 positions still out of it. But unfortunately, it's a rough weekend accompanied by a rough day in Vietnam, and we end up in the 14th position. I'm sorry, guys. That's on me. I put us in that position. You deserve better. We're going to have better in China. And there you hear myself reflecting on the radio. Of course, next episode, Chinese Grand Prix. Hopefully we can bounce back there as Christian Horner celebrates. And well, Red Bull only won one race last season. It was at Silverstone short with Alex Albon, and now they've already matched that after 2 races in the season. So a good start for Red Bull, and honestly I think we are going to see almost maybe a repeat of IRL 2021, where it's those 2 guys, Max Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton, Red Bull, Mercedes. We could be seeing that same rivalry kick off here in the game. Wouldn't that be a story? And how about just Sebastian Vettel being on the podium after qualifying outside the top 10? What a huge drive right there from the 4-time champion. I really don't see Ferrari being a threat, but I mean, both of their drivers are doing really good things, because Ferrari is not good in the R&D, and they both managed to get their drivers in the top 6, with Leclerc being in that 6th position. So great efforts from those guys. Carlos Sainz, fresh off his first career win, well, he ends up P10 here in race 2, as we'll take a look at the standings there. And it's still Sainz out in front over Verstappen, Vettel, Hamilton, but very small point gap, of course, between them. It's going to be really interesting watching this play out over the next few races now, as McLaren's tied with Ferrari, surprisingly, at the top of the board. I didn't really show the constructors long enough, but we'll look at it more next episode. So welcome back to some Formula 1 action. We'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.